Good morning, everyone. It's an honor to stand before you today. We all have different dreams, backgrounds, and definitions of success. But there's one universal truth. Success doesn't happen by accident. It's a result of habits, repeated actions that shape our outcomes. Today, I want to share with you 6 powerful habits that consistently attract success. Habits practiced by high achievers in every walk of life. Let's dive in. Clarity of purpose is the foundation of all meaningful success. Without it, you're like a ship drifting in the ocean without a map, a compass, or a destination. You may move, you may stay afloat, but you won't get anywhere intentional. One of the most common traits among high achievers, from entrepreneurs to artists to athletes, is that they know what they want. They don't just hope things will turn out well. They decide what they want and then work backward to create a path to get there. But let's be honest, most people don't start with clarity. In fact, many drift through life on autopilot. They go to school because they're supposed to. They get a job because they need to. They follow routines that were handed to them rather than created by them. It's no wonder they feel stuck or uninspired, but clarity changes everything. When you have a sense of purpose, your energy has direction, your time gains meaning, your efforts compound, and the decisions you once agonized over suddenly become easier because they either move you closer to your goal or they don't. Clarity doesn't mean you have every detail figured out. It's not about knowing exactly where you'll be in 5 years or having a perfect plan. Instead, it's about having a vision that pulls you forward. It's having a deep why behind your actions. Why do you want to grow? Why do you want to succeed? Why does it matter to you? When your purpose is clear, you have a reason to push through discomfort, to stay disciplined, and to stay on track even when the results aren't immediate. Think about the difference between someone wandering around with no goal and someone on a mission. Their posture is different, their mindset is different, their ability to say no to distractions is stronger because they're saying yes to something greater. That's what purpose does. It gives you the power to prioritize. People often think they're lacking motivation when what they're really lacking is clarity. Motivation is the fire, but clarity is the spark. You can't ignite consistent effort without knowing what you're working toward. Once you define what you want, truly want, your brain starts to filter out the noise and focus on what matters. You start recognizing opportunities you might have missed before. You notice people, resources, and moments that align with your purpose. It's like tuning a radio. Once you find the right frequency, the signal becomes clear. Clarity also breeds confidence. When you're unsure about what you want, every step feels uncertain. But when you're rooted in a clear purpose, you move with conviction. You may not have all the answers, but you trust your direction. That trust gives you courage, the courage to take risks, to try new things, and to stand up for your values even when others don't understand them. One powerful way to gain clarity is through reflection. Take time to ask yourself hard questions. What do I value? What kind of life do I want to live? What impact do I want to have? Don't rush the answers. Sit with them. Write them down. Talk them out with someone you trust. The more you explore your values, your passions, and your strengths, the more your purpose begins to take shape. You'll find that clarity often comes in layers. At first it may be blurry. You may just know what you don't want anymore. That's okay. That's a start. Over time, with action and reflection, your vision becomes more focused. You begin to notice patterns in what energizes you and what drains you. You discover what lights you up, and that's where purpose lives. It lives in the things you're willing to do even when no one's watching. It lives in the things you feel called to pursue even if they scare you. It lives in the goals that feel worth struggling for. It's also important to understand that your purpose can evolve. What matters to you at 20 might shift by the time you're 30 or 50. That's not failure, that's growth. Staying aligned with your evolving purpose is part of living a successful, intentional life. So revisit your goals often. Check in with yourself. Are you still on the path you want to be on? Or are you simply repeating habits out of routine? When you notice you've drifted, don't panic. Just redirect. That's the beauty of clarity. It acts as your internal compass. It helps you recalibrate. Even if you get off track for a while, your purpose can pull you back. Now, let me ask you, what are you working toward right now? And more importantly, why? If you can't answer that clearly, start there. Define your goal. Maybe it's building a business, becoming financially free, improving your health, or making a difference in your community. Whatever it is, write it down. Then go one step deeper. Ask yourself why that goal matters. Keep asking why until you reach the emotional core, the reason that lights a fire inside you. That's where clarity lives. And once you have it, protect it. Don't let other people's opinions water it down. Don't let fear shrink it. Don't let temporary setbacks make you forget it. Write it somewhere you'll see it daily. Remind yourself of it when things get tough. Let it be the lens through which you make choices, from how you spend your mornings to who you spend time with. Remember, success doesn't come from wishing. It comes from aligning your actions with your purpose, day in, day out. When your goal is clear, your energy becomes focused, your passion becomes powerful, and you stop settling for a life of reaction and start building a life of intention. Clarity of purpose is not just a nice idea. It's a habit, something you cultivate by staying connected to what matters most to you. And once you have that clarity, success no longer feels like a distant dream. It becomes something you attract because you're walking in its direction on purpose with purpose every single day. When people think of success, they often imagine the big moments, the awards, the applause, the breakthroughs, but what most don't see are the thousands of ordinary days, quiet hours, and repetitive actions that came before those highlights. That's where the real work happens. That's where relentless consistency lives. It's not glamorous, it's not flashy, but it is incredibly powerful. Consistency is the discipline of showing up over and over, even when you don't feel like it, even when no one's watching, even when progress feels invisible. It's easy to act with energy and commitment when everything is going well. When you feel inspired, when people are cheering you on, when results are immediate, it's exciting. But success rarely comes in a straight line. There are plateaus, setbacks, and seasons when nothing seems to be happening. In those moments, your habit of consistency becomes your greatest asset. Let's take a simple example. Imagine someone who wants to get in shape. They go to the gym for 2 hours one day, pushing themselves to the limit. Then they skip the next week. Then they go again for another intense workout. That burst of effort feels good in the moment, but it doesn't build lasting change. Compare that to someone who works out for just 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. The sessions might not be dramatic, but over time, they add up to something real. They build momentum, they create habits, and they deliver results. The same truth applies in every area. Whether you're building a business, learning a new skill, improving your mental health, writing a book, or saving money, big goals are not achieved through occasional inspiration. They're achieved through daily dedication, through small, repeated efforts that compound over time. Relentless consistency isn't about being perfect. It's about being committed. It's about deciding that you'll keep showing up, even on the hard days, even when progress feels slow, even when no one is giving you credit. Because deep down, you know that success is not an event, it's a process. And consistency is the fuel that keeps that process alive. One of the most powerful things about being consistent is that it builds trust, not just with others, but with yourself. Every time you follow through on a promise to yourself, you strengthen your confidence. You prove to yourself that you're someone who follows through. That trust becomes the foundation for everything else you build. When you trust yourself to show up, you stop negotiating with excuses. You don't need motivation, you have commitment. Think of the people you admire most, the athletes, the artists, the entrepreneurs, the leaders. Behind their success is usually not some magic formula or secret advantage. What they have is a remarkable ability to stick with the process day after day. They wake up early, they practice their craft, they push through resistance, and they do it all, not once in a while, but with relentless regularity. That's what separates good from great. That's what transforms potential into reality. But let's be real. Consistency is hard. Life gets busy. Distractions are everywhere. Motivation fades. And sometimes you just don't feel like doing the work. That's when your systems matter more than your mood. If you rely only on how you feel, you'll act inconsistently. But if you build routines, create structure, and commit to daily habits, you give yourself a path to follow even when you're not feeling your best. Successful people don't wait to feel ready, they start anyway. They understand that motion creates motivation, that action leads to progress, and progress leads to more action. And so they keep going, day by day, brick by brick. They know that even when the results are slow to appear, the effort is never wasted. Every repetition is shaping their skills. Every practice session is building their confidence. Every small step is carrying them closer to the goal. Another key truth is this: consistency creates identity. The more often you do something, the more you begin to see yourself as the kind of person who does that thing. If you write every day, you start seeing yourself as a writer. If you train every day, you start believing you're an athlete. That identity shift fuels your behavior. It becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. You act in alignment with who you believe you are, and you reinforce that identity every time you show up. Of course, consistency doesn't mean mindlessly repeating the same thing forever. It also means being willing to refine your approach. Successful people stay consistent with their effort, but flexible with their strategy. They evaluate what's working, learn from mistakes, and make adjustments along the way. But what they never do is quit at the first sign of struggle. They keep showing up, refining their path as they go. If you ever feel overwhelmed by a goal, break it down. You don't have to take giant leaps every day. You just have to take one step again and again. Focus on the habit, not the outcome. If you write 500 words a day, you'll have a book in a few months. If you save a little each week, your finances will transform over time. If you practice one new skill for 15 minutes a day, you'll become unrecognizably better in a year. That's the power of compounding effort. The best part, consistency is within your control. You can't control the economy. You can't control the weather. You can't control what others think or say. But you can control your daily actions. You can control whether you show up. That's where your power is. That's where your progress begins. So ask yourself, what's one thing I can commit to doing every day, even for just 5 or 10 minutes, that moves me closer to my goals? Then do that thing. Not just once, not just when it's convenient, but consistently. Let that small action become part of your routine. Let it anchor your day. Let it become non-negotiable. Because here's the truth. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. And if your habits are rooted in consistency, you are already on the path to greatness. You don't have to be the fastest. You don't have to be the smartest. You just have to be the one who doesn't stop, the one who keeps going, the one who puts in the work when others have already given up. Relentless consistency is quiet. It's often thankless, but it is undefeated. It is the difference between potential and progress, between intention and transformation. It's the habit that turns ordinary people into extraordinary success stories, not overnight, but over time. Keep showing up. The results will come. Success favors the curious. It leans toward those who ask questions, explore ideas, and refuse to settle into comfort. At the core of every truly successful person lies a deep and enduring habit, lifelong learning. It's the commitment to keep growing no matter how much you know, how far you've come, or how successful you've already become. It's the refusal to believe that learning ends after school, or that mastery means you've figured it all out. Because in truth, the moment you stop learning is the moment you stop evolving. Lifelong learning isn't about collecting degrees or reading books just to say you did. It's about developing a mindset that thrives on discovery and adaptation. It's about recognizing that the world is always changing. Technologies evolve, industries shift, cultures adapt, and if you're not learning, you're falling behind. But more than that, it's about personal growth. Learning stretches your perspective. It sharpens your thinking. It deepens your understanding of the world and of yourself. And it's this depth, not surface knowledge, that sets truly successful people apart. What's remarkable is that some of the most accomplished people in the world are also the most committed learners. They never think of themselves as finished products. In fact, the more they learn, the more they realize how much they don't know. That humility is what keeps their minds open. It's what drives them to seek out new challenges and ideas. It's why leaders like Warren Buffett still spend hours a day reading. Why artists and scientists continue to explore unfamiliar techniques. Why entrepreneurs study trends and test new ideas constantly. They understand that growth is not a phase, it's a lifestyle. Lifelong learners don't wait to be taught. They seek knowledge. They read books. They listen to podcasts. They attend workshops. They ask questions not to impress, but to understand. They surround themselves with people who challenge their thinking, not just those who agree with them. They know that every conversation holds the potential to teach them something if they're present enough to listen. They don't chase information for its own sake. They look for insight, for meaning, for application. And that's what makes their learning powerful. It's not passive, it's active. What sets them apart isn't their intelligence, it's their attitude. They don't fear being wrong because they see mistakes as fuel for growth. They're not embarrassed by not knowing something because curiosity is more important than pride. They welcome feedback because they understand it's a mirror. Sometimes uncomfortable, but incredibly useful. They aren't rigid in their beliefs. Instead, they evolve. They update their views when presented with new evidence. They see learning as a process of unlearning and relearning, not just accumulating facts. In contrast, those who stop learning tend to get stuck. They repeat what they already know. They become defensive when challenged. They rely on outdated knowledge in a world that's moving forward. Slowly their edge dulls, their relevance fades, not because they're less capable, but because they stopped adapting. They stopped asking questions. They stopped growing. And in a world where change is constant, standing still is a form of falling behind. Lifelong learning also builds resilience. When you're used to learning new things, you're more adaptable when challenges come. You're better equipped to pivot, to problem solve, to innovate. You don't panic in uncertainty. You engage with it. You've trained your mind to stretch, to explore, to stay open. You become more flexible, more creative, more resourceful. That's the power of a learning mindset. It prepares you not just for the known, but for the unknown. And the beautiful thing is that learning doesn't have to be formal or expensive. It can happen anywhere, in a conversation with a stranger, in a late-night journal entry, in a YouTube tutorial or a free online course, in reflecting on your own experiences, in observing how someone else handles a situation. The opportunities to learn are everywhere. You just have to be willing to notice them. It also helps to remember that learning is not linear. Some lessons come in the form of breakthroughs, but most come slowly through repetition, failure, and reflection. Sometimes you learn the same lesson 10 times before it finally clicks. Other times, a single insight can change your entire trajectory. Both experiences are valid, both are valuable. The key is to stay engaged, to stay open, to keep showing up to the process even when it's slow. There's also something deeply fulfilling about learning. It keeps life interesting. It keeps your brain alive. It fills you with new questions, new possibilities, new directions to explore. It reminds you that you are never too old, too late, or too far gone to grow. Whether you're 15 or 50, there's always something new to uncover, always another level to reach. That mindset keeps you vibrant, keeps you moving forward when others stagnate. And let's be honest, real learning often happens outside your comfort zone. When you try something new, when you struggle with a difficult concept, when you fail and have to try again, that's where the magic happens. That's where you grow. Comfort might feel good, but it rarely teaches you much. Growth lives in challenge, and lifelong learners learn to lean into that discomfort, to see it not as a threat, but as a teacher. So what does this look like in practice? It means reading even when you're tired, listening with curiosity, not judgment, asking more questions instead of pretending to know everything, reflecting on your mistakes instead of hiding them, trying new things even when you feel awkward or uncertain. It means staying humble, staying hungry, staying open, not because you aren't enough, but because you know you can always become more. If you want to track success, make learning a daily habit. Start your day with a podcast or a few pages from a good book. End your day by asking yourself what you learned. Spend time with people who challenge your thinking. Explore ideas that are different from your own. Try something that scares you just a little. Stretch your mind, even if it's just for 15 minutes a day, because those 15 minutes compounded over time can change your life. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Just be the most curious. Be the most willing to grow. That's what lifelong learning is. It's a commitment to never settle, to keep expanding, to keep discovering. And in a world that's always changing, that might just be the most important habit of all. The world belongs to those who are willing to learn. Stay hungry, stay open, stay curious, and success will find its way to you, not just because you know more, but because you've become more. Failure is a word that makes many people uncomfortable. It's often treated like something to avoid at all costs, a sign of weakness, a reason to give up, a mark of inadequacy. But what if failure wasn't the enemy? What if instead it was a powerful teacher, a stepping stone, a necessary part of the journey toward success? The truth is, everyone fails. What separates those who rise from those who fall permanently is not whether they fail, it's how they respond to it. Those who attract success are not the ones who never stumble. They are the ones who embrace failure, learn from it, and keep going anyway. Failure hurts, that's real. There's no need to pretend otherwise. It brings disappointment, frustration, even shame at times. You might question your worth, your talent, your path. You might feel like giving up. But buried beneath all that discomfort is something incredibly valuable: clarity, feedback, growth. Failure, when faced with the right mindset, becomes one of the most powerful tools for transformation. It shows you what doesn't work, so you can focus on what does. It sharpens your resilience. It humbles you, while also building your strength. Let's look at any great success story and you'll find a trail of failures leading up to it. Innovators, creators, athletes, and entrepreneurs all have their own stories of rejection, setbacks, and false starts. J.K. Rowling was rejected by numerous publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. Thomas Edison famously said he didn't fail 1,000 times. He simply found 1,000 ways that didn't work. Michael Jordan was cut from his high school basketball team. These aren't stories of flawless brilliance. They're stories of perseverance, of people who are willing to fail forward, to learn fast, and to keep showing up no matter what. The reason failure is so powerful is that it forces growth in a way that success often doesn't. When everything goes smoothly, we rarely stop to question our methods or reflect deeply. But failure demands it. It forces you to pause, reassess, and get honest with yourself. What went wrong? What can I do differently? What do I need to learn? In that reflection, you begin to build not just better strategies, but better character. You become more aware, more resourceful, more determined. Embracing failure also means letting go of perfectionism. Many people delay taking action because they fear making mistakes. They wait for the perfect time, the perfect plan, the perfect conditions. But perfection never comes. And in the waiting, they miss the very experiences that would teach them what they need to know. People who attract success understand that starting messy is better than never starting at all. They know that failure isn't something to avoid, it's something to manage, to analyze, and to use. The more you fail, the more data you have. The more experience you gain, the more courage you build. One of the most important shifts you can make is to reframe failure, not as a verdict on who you are, but as information about what you did. A failed attempt doesn't mean you are a failure. It simply means that one strategy didn't work, or that more preparation is needed, or that something needs to be adjusted. This mindset creates emotional distance from the failure. It allows you to examine it without letting it define you. And that perspective gives you power. It puts you back in control. There's also a quiet confidence that comes from surviving failure. Once you've fallen and gotten back up, you realize it didn't destroy you. You realize you're more resilient than you thought. That's where grit is built. That's where emotional endurance develops. You stop being afraid of trying, because even if it goes wrong, you trust yourself to handle it. And that trust is priceless. It frees you from the fear of what others might think. It frees you from the pressure to always get it right. It gives you permission to experiment, to take bold action, to risk. Failure also connects us to others in a real way. Success can be impressive, but failure is human. When you share your struggles, your mistakes, and your lessons, you give others permission to do the same. You create connection. And in that connection, new ideas, collaborations, and opportunities can emerge. The people who never pretend to have it all figured out often become the most respected because they're real, and real is magnetic. But embracing failure doesn't mean being careless. It doesn't mean charging ahead blindly or making the same mistakes over and over. It means being willing to try, to fall, and to learn with intention. It means reflecting, adjusting, and evolving. It means turning every setback into a setup for a stronger comeback. That's the art of failing well, not just surviving failure, but transforming it into wisdom. This habit of embracing failure also strengthens your creativity. When you're not afraid of getting it wrong, your mind opens up. You try new approaches. You explore wild ideas. You become more innovative because you're not confined by the fear of looking foolish. Some of the world's greatest breakthroughs came from experiments that weren't supposed to work. But someone tried anyway. Someone was willing to fail in pursuit of something new. And because of that, the world changed. There's a certain freedom that comes with realizing failure is part of the deal. When you accept it as normal, you stop resisting it. You stop beating yourself up. You stop making it mean more than it does. And that emotional freedom gives you space to grow. It allows you to take more action more quickly because you're no longer paralyzed by fear. The faster you fail, the faster you learn, the faster you succeed. Think of failure as tuition. It costs you something. Yes, time, money, ego. But in return, it teaches you lessons that no book or seminar ever could. Lessons earned through experience tend to stick. They shape your instincts. They sharpen your decision-making. They give you depth. And that depth is what helps you lead, innovate, and stand out. So if you failed recently, good. That means you're trying. That means you're in the game. And if you're willing to keep learning, it also means you're getting better. Don't hide from your failures. Study them. Share them, use them, let them teach you what success never could. Because the truth is, failure doesn't stop you unless you let it. It's not the end of the story. It's part of the story. Sometimes it's the most important chapter, the one where you find your strength, the one where you change your approach, the one where you become the kind of person who can handle what success will eventually bring. Those who embrace failure don't just become successful, they become wise, humble, and unshakable. And that's a kind of success that no mistake can take away. Discipline by itself is a powerful force. It builds structure, creates momentum, and ensures consistency over time. But discipline, when guided by your deepest values, becomes something much greater. It becomes meaningful. It stops being just about willpower and becomes an expression of who you are and what you truly care about. This is the kind of discipline that fuels sustainable success, the kind that doesn't burn out or rely on constant external pressure, but instead flows from a clear internal compass. Many people think of discipline as restriction, as something that takes the joy out of life. But in reality, value-driven discipline is one of the most liberating forces there is. It frees you from distraction. It gives you clarity when you're surrounded by noise. It allows you to say no to what doesn't matter because you are fiercely committed to what does. When your actions are aligned with your values, every sacrifice has purpose. Every routine has meaning. You're not just grinding for the sake of it. You're building something that reflects your identity and your vision. The most successful people are rarely the most talented or the most connected. More often than not, they're the most disciplined. They wake up early even when they're tired. They stick to their routines even when no one is watching. They work on their goals day after day, not because it's always exciting, but because they've connected their effort to something larger. They know what they want, and more importantly, they know why they want it. That why gives their discipline roots. It keeps them grounded when motivation fades. Discipline without values can lead to burnout. You can push yourself hard in the wrong direction, chase goals that don't fulfill you, and wake up one day wondering why you're exhausted and unhappy despite your hard work. But when your discipline is aligned with what you genuinely care about, the energy feels different. There's still effort, but it feels meaningful. Even the hard days serve a purpose. You're not just being productive, you're being intentional. You're building a life that reflects your truth. The first step in developing value-driven discipline is getting clear on what matters to you. Not what society says should matter. Not what looks impressive to others. But what you, in your quietest moments, know to be important. Is it family, creativity, health, contribution, freedom, integrity? Whatever your values are, they need to guide your habits and decisions. Because if your actions contradict your values, no amount of discipline will feel right. You'll always feel like you're working against yourself. Once you know your values, discipline becomes simpler, not easier, but simpler. For example, if health is a core value, going to the gym isn't just a task on your calendar, it's an act of alignment. It's a way of honoring what you believe in. If honesty is a value, difficult conversations aren't just uncomfortable, they're necessary for staying true to yourself. When your choices reflect your values, you stop needing motivation all the time. You act because it's who you are, not just what you want. Value-driven discipline is especially powerful when life gets messy, when obstacles arise, plans fall apart, or emotions get in the way. It's easy to stay consistent when everything is going well. The real test is when you're tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. That's when values serve as your anchor. They remind you why you started. They give your discipline staying power. They help you push through resistance, not because you feel like it, but because it matters. This kind of discipline also enhances your decision-making. Life constantly asks you to choose between comfort and growth, between ease and excellence. Without clear values, it's easy to make impulsive decisions that lead to regret. But with value-driven discipline, your choices are guided by a deeper logic. You're able to say, this is hard, but it's aligned with what I stand for. That inner alignment builds confidence. It builds trust in yourself. Over time, that trust becomes unshakable. There's also a powerful emotional benefit to value-driven discipline. It brings peace, not because life becomes easy, but because you know you're living in integrity. You know you're showing up for yourself, honoring your commitments, and walking your path with purpose. That kind of peace can't be bought or faked. It comes from the daily practice of aligning your habits with your highest priorities. Even on the days when results are slow or invisible, there's a quiet satisfaction in knowing you're doing what's right for you. This doesn't mean you have to be perfect. Discipline isn't about rigid perfectionism, it's about consistency. And value-driven discipline allows for flexibility, because it's not about following a strict formula. It's about being honest with yourself, checking in regularly, and making adjustments when needed. If a habit stops serving your values, you change it. If you fall off track, you come back. Not out of guilt, but out of commitment. Because when you're guided by your values, discipline is no longer punishment, it's devotion. And devotion is powerful. It changes how you treat your time, your energy, your relationships. You become more intentional. You stop chasing every shiny object. You become less reactive and more focused. People notice, they respect it. They might not understand your discipline, but they feel the strength behind it. It radiates, it inspires. Discipline also compounds over time. What starts as a small commitment, reading 10 pages a day, meditating for 5 minutes, making one important call, becomes a habit. That habit becomes a routine. That routine becomes a lifestyle. And that lifestyle, rooted in your values, starts to build results, not overnight, but inevitably. Value-driven discipline is slow magic. It doesn't feel dramatic, but it works quietly, powerfully in the background, day after day, shaping you into someone extraordinary. Perhaps the most beautiful thing about this kind of discipline is that it brings your internal and external world into harmony. Your behavior matches your beliefs. Your actions reflect your heart. You become someone you're proud of, not because you've achieved everything, but because you're living honestly, intentionally, and with purpose. That sense of alignment is the foundation of true success, not just success that looks good on the outside, but success that feels right on the inside. So when you think about discipline, don't just think about habits or schedules or productivity. Think about values. Think about what matters most to you. Then let that guide your discipline. Let it be the reason you show up early, stay focused, and keep going. Let it be the reason you say no to distractions and yes to growth. Let it be the heartbeat behind your effort. Because in the end, discipline driven by values doesn't just help you reach your goals, it helps you become the person you were always meant to be. Success is never a solo journey. Even the most self-driven, determined individuals owe much of their growth to the people they've connected with along the way. Behind every achievement is a network of relationships, mentors who offered guidance, friends who offered encouragement, collaborators who brought new perspectives, and even critics who helped sharpen your resolve. The ability to build and nurture positive relationships isn't just a nice social skill, it's a fundamental habit that attracts long-term success. At its core, building positive relationships is about presence, trust, and authenticity. It's not about charm or manipulation. It's not about networking in a transactional sense or collecting contacts just for the sake of opportunity. It's about showing up with integrity, genuinely caring about others, and investing in human connections with the understanding that people matter. When you lead with sincerity, people feel it. And that creates bonds that last, support that's real, and partnerships that elevate everyone involved. Success becomes richer and more meaningful when shared. The victories taste better when you've had someone cheering for you. The challenges feel lighter when you're not carrying them alone. Whether it's in business, creativity, leadership, or personal growth, the quality of your relationships will often determine the quality of your results. Doors open when you're trusted. Opportunities appear when you're recommended. Progress accelerates when you're supported. Relationships are the bridge between where you are and where you want to go. One of the keys to building positive relationships is practicing active listening. Most people don't listen to understand, they listen to reply. But the truly successful people know that giving someone your full attention is a powerful act of respect. It communicates that they matter. And when people feel seen and heard, they open up, they become more willing to share insights, offer help, and return the respect. Listening isn't passive. It's an active investment in connection. It tells people you are valued. Another essential element is generosity. Not just with material things, but with your time, your attention, your encouragement, and your knowledge. When you become someone who contributes, who uplifts others without expecting immediate returns, you build goodwill that comes back in surprising ways. People remember how you made them feel. They remember who helped them when there was nothing to gain. And over time, that reputation builds a network of trust and admiration that no amount of self-promotion can buy. But relationships also require boundaries. Positive doesn't mean permissive. You can be kind and firm. You can be generous without being taken advantage of. In fact, healthy relationships thrive on mutual respect. When you communicate clearly, uphold your values, and maintain standards for how you're treated, you attract people who respect those qualities. You create space for honest communication. And that clarity leads to stronger, more resilient connections. In today's fast-paced world, it's easy to treat relationships as optional, something you tend to only when you have time. But the people who attract success consistently prioritize relationships. They check in, they remember birthdays, they send thank you notes, they follow up after meetings, not just to push business forward, but to acknowledge the human on the other side. These small gestures might seem insignificant, but they're the threads that weave strong social fabric. Over time, they turn acquaintances into allies and strangers into supporters. Empathy is another cornerstone. Being able to step into someone else's shoes, even briefly, shifts your approach to everything. It changes how you respond to feedback. It influences how you handle conflict. It deepens your leadership. When you understand what others are feeling or needing, you don't just communicate more effectively, you connect more deeply. Empathy allows you to lead with compassion, to negotiate with fairness, and to support with sincerity. And in a world that often feels cold and rushed, that warmth is magnetic. Let's also talk about accountability. Positive relationships are not just built on kindness, they're built on reliability. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Show up when you say you will. Deliver what you promised. These simple acts of consistency build trust faster than any grand gesture ever could. When people know they can count on you, they want to work with you, they want to help you, they want to see you win, because dependable people are rare and deeply respected. And what happens when relationships become difficult? That's when the real test begins. True success doesn't come from avoiding conflict. It comes from handling it with maturity. Being willing to have tough conversations, to admit when you're wrong, to forgive when someone stumbles, and to repair what's been damaged is what keeps relationships strong through life's inevitable challenges. Avoiding issues leads to resentment. Addressing them with grace leads to growth. And those who can navigate tension while still preserving dignity on both sides tend to rise to the top because they are seen as trustworthy leaders. It's also important to surround yourself with people who challenge you. Not just those who agree with you, but those who stretch your thinking, call you higher, and hold you accountable to your potential. Positive relationships are not just about comfort, they're about elevation. Being in the company of driven, kind, growth-minded people has a contagious effect. Their habits influence yours. Their standards raise your own. Their support fuels your belief in yourself. You become better just by being around them. This means being intentional about your circle. Who you spend time with shapes your mindset, your energy, and your trajectory. If you want to grow, seek out people who are growing. If you want to lead, learn from those who lead well. If you want to build something meaningful, align with those who share your values. Choose connection over convenience. Choose depth over popularity. Choose people who inspire you to become the version of yourself you most respect. And finally, never underestimate the power of appreciation. Gratitude strengthens every relationship it touches. Saying thank you, giving credit, acknowledging effort. It may seem simple, but it's rare. And because it's rare, it's powerful. The people who succeed in life and business are often the ones who make others feel important, not through flattery, but through genuine recognition. When you consistently honor the people around you, you create a culture of loyalty and positivity that fuels everyone's success, including your own. So remember this, no matter how talented, driven, or smart you are, your relationships will either accelerate or limit your success. Choose them wisely, nurture them intentionally, approach them with humility, generosity, and heart. Because success built on isolation is fragile, but success built on strong, positive relationships, that's the kind that lasts.